It is the 19th of the 8th, 2025. It's 22 minutes past 8. That means only one thing, that there are very many F1-centric thread at which we need to pull. As always, we'll talk about Christian Horner. Rumours that he will be in the not too distant future a shareholder, a minority shareholder of Alpine, displacing one Fabio Briatore. So too, we'll talk about Yuki Tsunoda. Alex Jake saying that potentially Yuki Tsunoda's destiny and his future as an F1 driver is no longer within his control. We'll talk about Hulkenberg as the second driver of Red Bull Racing at one point in the not too distant past. We'll talk about Tom Biasis and these new bloody rules because it's getting on my nerves. So too with the F1 community, not too happy at all this active aero nonsense. The managerial championships in 2026 inject it into my veins. Not. So too we'll talk about Alex Jakes saying that Lewis Hamilton, not necessarily that he's done, but who's the most likely to replace him at Ferrari when he leaves. And we'll talk about Maximilian Verstappen topping the athlete's salary globally. It's techie, this. It is techie. Go on then, in the first instance, should we talk about Christian Horner? Not long dismissed from Red Bull Racing. Not long deposed as director of Oracle Red Bull Racing. We know that because there was a submission to Companies House. You will recall as well, Christian Horner in his leaving speech was precise with his wording. He said, I won't be working with Red Bull, at least in an operational capacity, alluding to the fact that anytime there are severances of this kind, that there is a gardening leave portion. Always happens with Adrian Newey, and of course it happened with Christian Horner, why they sort out the minutiae and the severance terms. Now we know that Christian Horner received a double-digit £1,000,000 payoff. Some are saying anywhere between 20 and 30 million pounds. That's exactly what Checo Perez got, was it not? Oh, the humanity. That's a lot of bloody money. And if rumours to be believed, Christian Horner's going to need a lot of money if indeed he wants to become a minority shareholder of Alpine, rumoured to be up to $1 billion as far as their valuation. And if Christian Horner's going to raise 30%, then that works out as at £298 million. Oh, the humanity. Can Christian Horner do that? Can you see Christian Horner coming back in with equity this time? And again, he would have learned from his mistakes of the most recent past, if indeed he does that, because the reason why they could sack him at Oracle Red Bull Racing is because he didn't fulfill his ambition to become, just like Toto the boy who cried wolf, a team principal come shareholder, didn't have the equity and ultimately didn't have a seat at the decision making table, and that's why that fell away. However, in that automotive pugilistic equation, the one who falls foul, the victim, is Fabio Briatore. Currently sits there as an executive advisor, executive director, depending on whom you are speaking to. Now, though, Ralf Schumacher saying, and he doesn't miss too often with these sort of things, does Ralf? Ralf Schumacher says that Fabio Briatore's role at Alpine is at stake as Christian Horner will depose him, supersede him. Why would you need Fabio when you have Christian Horner? But again, this is rumour and speculation. I know nothing, ladies and gentlemen, less than Jon Snow. Oh, and by the way, if we're talking about Tsunoda-san, as is Nelson Valkenberg, again, speaking to the Nailing the Apex podcast, he had a couple of things to say about Yuki Tsunoda. This is important, chat. Context is key for a couple of different reasons here. Yuki Tsunoda was always a Honda driver more than he was an Oracle Red Bull Racing driver. Don't believe me? Rewind to 2024 and see how they treated him at Goodwood. It looked like Danny Rick was more a Red Bull Racing driver than Tsunoda-san. Then he was always the prodigal son in a way that Tsunoda-san could never be, for he was Honda's guy. Whilst Honda have a relationship with Oracle Red Bull Racing, Tsunoda-san, by dint of £20 million worth of sponsorship per annum that Honda were prepared to pay Oracle Red Bull Racing for Tsunoda-san's seat, he was always going to be a hired hand, a sellsword. But as soon as that relationship between Honda and Oracle Red Bull Racing comes to an end, which it does at the end of this year, where was Tsunoda-san going to go? Aston Martin maybe, but the problem is over there. Lawrence Stroll has himself, his son, and Fernando Alonso, and harbours ambitions to sign Maximilian Verstappen to 3 into 2 seats will not go. This is not Fermat's last theorem, of course. This is basic maths. So speculation is that Tsunoda-san will be the last man standing. The music will stop next year and Tsunoda-san will not have a chair. Speculation is that they will sandwich Arvid Lindblant, the next one per Dr. Helmut Marko, into the Racing Bulls seat alongside Liam Lawson, and then Tsunoda-san again. Music stops and he's the last one standing. Oh, and by the way, Brachiosaurus, you're a legend. You are indeed only as good as your last race. This is the oldest truism in F1 history, is it not? Element of surprise. Modern day Satoru Nakajima. Oh, the humanity. Red Bull is a private company. There is no shareholding possible. Very true. It's a very, very good shout, actually. They are a limited company. But still, you can have shares in a limited company now. You can have shares. There must be shares in a limited company, not publicly available shares, but shares nevertheless. Listen, I don't want to bore you guys with business acumen nonsense. Oh, and by the way, there is chat about Hulkenberg. This is important, chat. As once upon a time, Dr. Helmut Marko says that the difference between Checo Perez and Hulkenberg for the second seat at Red Bull, there was millimeters in it. Here's what he says. Around 2020, they were looking at an experience, a hired hand to do to Red Bull what Valtteri Bottas was doing for Mercedes. Hulkenberg, though, he was never around, was he? A couple deputy jobs at Racing Point, but Checo Perez went and won Sakir Grand Prix in 2020, and that made up Dr. Helmut Marko, Oliver Mintzlaff, and all of the other decision maker, Christian Horner included, made their mind up to go for Checo Perez. But Dr. Helmut Marko says that Hulkenberg was this close, and I think that's a shame, chat. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that's a crying shame, because can you imagine? If that had been the case, that had been the eventuality that Hulkenberg would have ended up in a Red Bull racing car, how many podiums he would have had between now and then. Sometimes the machinery, that's the missing piece, right? The jewel in the crown. Even if you are a Max Verstappen or an Ayrton Senna in 1993, let's say, and 1992, if you don't have the car, then you could be the greatest driver and Sir Lewis in 2025. If you don't have the car, then you're not going to get anything done. Oh, and by the way, let me show you this. This is important. I think this is brilliant, chat. You remember Franco Colapinto many moons ago encouraged his Argentine contingent and fan base not to invest in the official merch. Get it secondhand. Do you know what I mean? One of those. Why don't you get the knockoff merch, which is chaos, chat, that he could even think of saying such a thing, eh? Especially when he works for Renault, Alpine. Encourage them to go and buy the official merch. But that's part of Franco Colapinto's charm, that he's nothing if not a true sayer, if not a fantastic F1 racing driver. Again, his tenure is up for speculation, is it not? But check this out, chat. I think this is amazing. It's an official Renault line. The fake collection. Franco Colapinto, never hesitate to take advantage out of virality. You can't, there's no way you can manufacture it. And this is Franco Colapinto being viral. They brought out a fake merch line at the altar of Franco Colapinto's viral. I just think that's brilliant. I think sometimes F1 takes itself just a tad too serious, just a tad. And this is one of those times where Renault come Alpine have done what they should do. Take advantage of the virality and stop taking yourself so bloody seriously. F1 could do with a welcome dose of some self-deprecation. Oh, and by the way, got to talk about these rules, chat. It's getting, honestly, you know, to be honest, it's absolutely getting on my nerves. This bloody movable arrow is not going to go well, as if 2025 is a gangbusters season just like 2021 was. It is not. So there needs some momentum. 2026 needs to kick on. Do you know what I mean? What we can't afford to be doing is having these conversations. Why are we talking about this? Why? This is nonsense. Just extend the rules and regs as they are. And I know Formula One needs to keep up with the automotive industry, set the trend, blaze a trail, pioneer some innovative technology. It is its duty even. But yeah, and still, what this This rule and reg set is going to be a problem. The way that they're talking about it already, I can see it, Issa. It's not bad, is it? I don't hate it, Issa. Roshat says pink Mercedes saved Checo from the bell that year, 1000%. Hulkenberg would have been great at building a great car, and he would have had some podiums as well by now. The sliding doors in F1 is chaos, right? I couldn't believe that. I knew that they were always sniffing around Hulkenberg as a potential candidate, but I didn't realise that literally they were that close. But for Checo Perez's performance that year, he would have been Nico. Oh, and by that, because let me tell you about this Tom Biasi's interview. So Tom Biasis, the technical director of FIA, he's given an interview to motorsport.com, and in there he's talked about all the problems that the new regs are facing. I'll read them out to you because it's really important that we know what's coming down the pipe as far as 2026 and its multitudinous foibles. Brand new rule and reg spec, 50% ice, 50% electric, movable active aero. This is going to be the managing championships. No longer is it F1 properly. It's going to get techie, Sir John Perry. You're a different type of gravy, sir. I appreciate you. I'm humbled. This is what Tom Biasis has said. He says, quote, obviously, when you have a much bigger proportion of electrical power and a smaller proportion of ICE, internal combustion engine power, and you don't have batteries that are discharging over the entire race distance, then energy management becomes a bit more of a challenge. No kidding, Sherlock. This is the managing championships already, Tom Biasis, in your own bloody words. Why are these bots having to be so efficient with their energy? Why can't the engine manufacturers make power units an electrical portion of it to where they don't have to be so bloody efficient? What are we doing here? Nobody wants this. Who put this forth as a supposite? Who said that this was a good idea? I want to know. Tell me who it was and I will get them for you. This is nonsense chat already. 2026 is bringing the sport into disrepute. I'm going to read that again because this is important. Energy management becomes more of a challenge. They don't have batteries that are discharging over the entire race distance. They won't have enough energy. Nothing to see here then. Not if you want racing, not if you believe in Chariots of Fire F1, Senna and Prost in 1990 and late 80s. If you want to see that, then nothing to see here, then nothing to worry about. Tom Biasis continues, and I quote, now the opportunity of these cars for the participating manufacturers is to develop the batteries, the electrical systems and so on. I think we will see some innovation on the electrical side of the engine next year, which I think will be good. But clearly there are some challenges. Clearly, he says, there are some challenges with the energy management, and the noises that we hear are usually related to that. You mean the noises from the drivers? Albon, Alonso, Verstappen, Lando Norris, all of whom have come out and been critical about their time in the simulation, about the energy deployment, and about the entire thesis of these new rules and regs in 2026. Nothing to see here then. Tom Biasis continues, we haven't finished the rules yet in that respect. Well, it's 2026 in a minute, Tom Biasis. So what are you talking about, chap? We've only got a couple months until it's next season. So what about the new rules and regs haven't you conceptualized and instituted for yet? Non-rhetorical question for which we need answers. So we're only a few months away. Everybody to a man, all of the drivers saying that this thing is rubbish. Albon keeps saying it's the managing championship. Nobody wants to see this. He continues, the rules are evolving and we knew of these issues from day one. So if you knew about the issues from day one, why are we even here? Fail fast. Tom Biasis, surely, and I don't mean to go scorched stuff, but this is just nonsense. Anybody can see that this is F1 baloney. He continues, however, the moment you reduce one power and you increase the other one, we knew that there would be issues that we needed to address. So how comes they have not been addressed? Nicholas Tom Biasis, what are we doing here? Nothing to see, mate. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. We shouldn't be concerned. Nothing to see, chat. This article continues. A complicating factor, I'm going to read this out. This is where it gets techier than techie things. A complicating factor in all of this is that not all manufacturers are equally open with the FIA. Is this not F1? Are we brand new? Are we dealing with these F1 teams like they're like we're F1 virgins? Do you not remember 2009 and Ross Brawn? Do you not understand that to be an F1, par for the course, cost of doing business in F1 is to be secretive about any durable competitive advantage that you might have in your back pocket? Why are these FIA bods, Nicholas Tombiasis included, behaving like they're brand new to this? Of course they're going to keep it bloody secret. Why do you expect them to declare all of their advantages if indeed that's what a Mercedes or a Scuderia Ferrari have at the altar of their power unit development? What are we doing here? Is it just me? Is this a nothing burger? I think not. Chat, here's what Tom Biasis says. Not all teams and PU manufacturers are as transparent with us in their data. No kidding, Sherlock. Some are very secretive about what they're doing, while some others are very open and very helpful in proposing things. Of course, Alpine, to be fair, have the Mercedes engine, but you know what I mean? Anybody not Mercedes and not Ferrari powered, of course they're going to be open up front. Red Bull, whereas before it was Christian Horner saying fix your fudging car from the front, now that he's got a Ford power unit in there, the Oracle Red Bull Racing Team, of course they're going to be open and transparent with a view to knowledge share and gain some advantage from the likes of Mercedes, who, if rumour is to be believed, have nailed it, that they've expedited for their power unit learning curve. Share all the information then so we can see at which altar what your power unit looked like and at which altar your durable competitive advantage power unit wise comes from. Tom Biasis continues, other teams have been helpful in proposing things. We are taking a lot of those ideas on board. Well, chop, mate. How long do you have? Do you know what I mean? There's not many months of the year left. So you've got about 6 months, T-6, to get this right, lest we end up in a chaos of a 2026 season with half-baked rules and regulations. By the way, this article continues, although he doesn't name specific manufacturers, it seems obvious that the ones confident in their own products prefer to reveal as little as possible. Mention no names, the boys and girls from Brackley and Brixworth Mercedes. Middle England, no. F1's always been incestuous. Personnel leave one team and go and join the next. There's only a certain there's a finite pool of intellectual property, human resources that can go and do what an Adrian Newey does, or even a Pierre Vacher, an Enrico Balbo, a Loic Serra. There's a finite number, and of course they all talk to each other. They leave and then have a conversation. Crackosaurus, you're 11. It feels like no. They leave and they have another conversation. They leave and they update. You remember Stepney and bloody the other chap, Spygate settings. You know what time it is in Formula One. So of course they're having conversations. So when you hear there is no smoke without fire in F1. So when you hear that it's more in all likelihood Mercedes have nailed it, expedited for their learning curve as far as the power unit's concerned in 2026, you can probably take that to the bank. I wouldn't dispute it. I think there's something to it because again, there is no smoke without F1 fire. Here's what Tom Biasis says, or the article bookends with. He wouldn't name specific manufacturers, but it seems obvious that the advantaged ones will be sharing as little as possible, even to the FIA. They're under no obligation to share. This is why you need to bloody have fully formed regs at the outset. What are we doing here? This isn't time for the iterative process to play out. What you need at this point, with only a couple months away from 2026 season start, is to have a fully fledged set of rules and regulations. No more iteration. This is final draft. Do you know what I mean? Am I missing something and being too harsh? I think not. After all, bookends this article, any regulatory intervention could disadvantage them more. Right, so if I've got the advantage, don't change the rules now. This is like Mohammed bin Salem saying, oh, why don't we bring in V10 so that Cadillac F1 can come in and we can all start afresh from zero, hundreds of millions worth of R&D, ladies and gents. No, sack that off, bin that off, obsolete, V10s now, as if. None of the teams on the grid are going to sacrifice those hundreds of millions that they've been injecting to R&D at the altar of the 2026 rules and regs as they stand as at the time of writing, with a view to what? Why? Just give up advantage for gusto, like it's UNICEF and altruistic at behave yourself. Oh, and by the way, on this article, motorsport.com, by the way, Ronald Vording. I'll link the article in the description. The community is summarized. Its reaction is summarized by Z's comment. Comment reads like this: reaction to all of Nicholas Tombiasi's comments. Why don't you just cut the electric bull feathers, and it doesn't say bull feathers, and just race as it was done before? Crazy, right? I mean, oh, the humanity. I don't think it's more complicated than that. Just race, for Pete's sake. All of this complicated nonsense at the altar of being at the forefront of sustainability. All the while Mohammed bin Sulayem, president of the FIA, looking to get re-elected again, is travelling back and forth on his private jet. Can you spell hypocrisy? And again, speaking about Mohammed bin Sulayem, that he's looking to stamp out all the bloody online bullying, techier than techie things. And what's he been doing all the while? Allegedly, we are not rappers, prioritising or conflict of interest, Susie. But what's he been doing all this time? Yeah, you jet set around on your private jet, Mohammed bin Sulayem. Do you know what I mean? Sustainability settings, of course. Oh, and by the way, Alex Jakes has said a couple of different things about Sir Lewis Hamilton and his successor, alluding to the fact that Oliver Bearman currently finds himself in pole position for that seat. Went on a podcast and said, I think Ollie Bearman is in a brilliant position with his association with that team long term. I think the fact that they put him in the car for his Formula One debut speaks to how highly they rate him. It's going to be the same management. Fred has got a long-term contract there. He's been consistently quick in everything he's raced. He has a very sticky final year in Formula 2, where his performance from rookie year evaporated. He'd already shown, however, enough for Haas in that FP1 for them to give him a chance. Excellence is coming back, whether the FI is aware or otherwise. Go on then, Crackosaurus. Shed some light. I don't know if it is, chap. I don't know if 2026 will be excellent. As far as F1 as a sporting endeavour, I think the water is murky. I'm filled with woe and dread. Negativity. It consumes me as far as F1 in 2020. Now, this always happens, right? It travels in cycles, does F1, but bloody Nora. I just... Right, easy on the right show. It's techie. It's very, very techie. Are you alluding to the rash that I've got here, mate? I'm ever so slightly insecure. I know you're talking to Crackosaurus, right, Shaq. It's techie. I'm telling you, I've got a bloody rash here that I need to sort out. It's getting on my nerves. Oh, and by the way, if we're talking, MBS is a bit of an idiot, isn't he? Allegedly. GJ cameo spot on always GJ, do you know what I mean? Funny enough, that works on cars too. Go on then, let me read this out. I want to go through this Maximilian Verstappen stuff. I think not in 26 or 27. Pete, it's techie. I'm filled with woe and dread. I can't articulate it enough. I cannot reiterate enough. I am concerned. It takes time to change culture. 100% Crackosaurus. Change people too. They just need to just burn that FIA. Just a fish stinks from the head down, right? And as long as Mohammed bin Sulayem is FIA president, you can only expect it to travel in one direction. Innovation? Are you kidding me? Sustainability, transparency, all of these buzzwords that they pull out from their managerial handbooks. What for? Less talk FIA and more action. And I think they've ballsed this up, truly. I feel like they've ballsed it up, chat. I think 26 will be all about the customers of Merck, humiliating Merck with their owner. Same, Safak. If past this prologue, then McLaren could have the whip hand yet. Again, that would get techie. Then techie things. The future of F1 is corporate. What do you mean, the future, Daniel? The now, Daniel, of F1 is corporate. More corporate than I think any of us would like. Cameron, do you think Max Verstappen, 4-time world champion, will ever be 5-time world champion? I tell you what I'm not about to do is, I'm not going to bet against it. I wouldn't bet against it. I think we'd be foolish to at this juncture, but he's got to make some smart decisions. He has to make some smart decisions. We'll talk about Max Verstappen now, because I came across this that speaks to how much that chap is earning in the broader context of sports athletes globally. Check this out, chat. You tell me. So, this article, brilliant article by the way, and I always like the broader sporting context. Do you know what I mean? Here's what they have to say. Cristiano Ronaldo, $234 million per year last time round. That, ladies and gentlemen, is chaos. Now, I know he's operating in the Middle East, and yeah, to a certain extent, it's anomalous circumstance, right? They pay footballers there whatever they want, give them a blank check and let them write their own number. But in the second instance, second place on this list, 100 million per year, John Rahm, golf. Well, this is Middle Eastern money because he's on the LIV tour, eh? Chaos, chat. The whole landscape of sports is like, write your own check. Sports washing, can you say? And to a lesser or greater extent, F1 is becoming part of that now. How many Grand Prix do we have in that part of the world? I can't remember off the top. Saudi, Bahrain, there's Qatar. There's another couple, isn't there? Listen, chat, there is a trend here that's becoming more preeminent that we need to speak to. Canelo Alvarez, again, 73 million. Who's running boxing at the moment? Turkey Al Sheikh. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here? Riyadh season. Bet your bottom dollar that this is becoming the takeover. 72 million is what Max Verstappen is on. Now, this is important, chat. I'm going to read out the rest of the list actually for context, but before we talk to Max Verstappen's circumstance and how much he's on and what that means going forward. The rest of the list looks something like this. Max Verstappen, 72 million. SGA basketball, 71.2 million last time round. Otani, $70 million. Dak Prescott, NFL, 60 million. Carbush, 16.9 million. NASCAR. Roman Reigns, let's go. Acknowledge me, 15 million. That's chaos. Fabio Quartararo, MotoGP, 40 million. There's somebody else earning more than, what's the chap's name? Marcus. Marquez, that's interesting. Leon Drysat, I can't pronounce that. NHL, 14 million. Chaos. Here's why this is important, chap. Middle East is, I'm telling you, Macon, it's coming, and this is proof positive of it. Here's why this is important and why I think it's important to bring it to the fore, not just the broader context, the direction in which sports globally is moving as far as money and the source of it. But I want to talk about Maximilian Verstappen. That $72 million is critical because Toto, the boy who cried wolf, cannot think for a second that he's going to pay a penny less than 100 million. If again we're talking remuneration packages for Max Verstappen in 2027. Now 2026 is gone, but that doesn't mean that Max still isn't on the bloody yacht of Toto keying with Susie and Kelly Piquet. I think this is a real thing, but I think they might have to buy him out. I know the contract's done one of these. It's got a bit techie. He's promised Red Bull one additional year, and then if they don't build him a car, then he can leave. But I think we're looking at in excess of $100 million for Maximilian Verstappen if you're going to give that dude a multi-year contract. I think it might be well in excess of 100 million, anywhere between 110 and 120. I'm telling you, chat, it's going to get techie, and that's why Toto will need the rubber stamp of Ola Kalunius, the senior bods over at Daimler, 33% owner of Mercedes AMG Petronas F1 team. It's going to get techie, and they will throw the book at him. You remember that dude saying that Max Verstappen, he'd look really nice in their black overalls of the boys and girls from Brackley and Bricks of Well. Mate, I think they're going to have to make it happen. And never has there been more proof positive of that thesis than seeing, again, not an AI-generated pic, not a Photoshop image of Maximilian Verstappen and Toto, the boy who cried wolf, but an actual picture of all of them on a bloody yacht, keying, going back and forth. I'm telling you, I think we need to start taking this seriously, chat. Genuinely. I think we have to take this more seriously now than ever. On a yacht, what do they have to talk about apart from a contract in 202? So Max will be smart to go I think he's going to purvey. Per friend of the channel, Peter D. Windsor, he said it best. Why would Max leave and go to 2026? Remember, 4-time champion looks very different on paper to 7 or 8 or 9 or 10-time champion. This is a critical decision, so why not take the time to make it then? ingest some first-hand evidence, see what happens in 2026 and whether Mercedes can deliver on that promise, or maybe it will be McLaren again. Andrea Stella out here talking about all these lessons learned that they can take forward, all of the aerodynamic efficiency, notwithstanding the fact that it's no longer optimized for ground effect, that it's active aero. There are still learnings, low-hanging fruit as far as their design philosophy that they can roll forward through to 2026. Andrea Stella's words, not mine. But again, I think ultimately all Maximilian Verstappen will know is that Red Bull isn't the place where he needs to be, not going forward. And that's why you see him on the bloody yacht having conversations, a cheeky coffee, a cheeky luncheon with Toto and Susie. I was watching some Netflix Drive to Survive, as blasphemous as that is for me as an old grey-bearded F1 veteran, part-time casual, part-time purist. I was watching the Lewis Hamilton episode again, and I was watching Toto consult his closest counsel and his wife, Susie Wolff, about who next after Sir Lewis. Not once did they talk about George as the next driver, because he's obviously already there. They were talking, and not once did they talk about Kimi Antonelli, ironically. They talked in the first instance about Alonso. Nah, Susie was like, I don't think Alonso's the next one. Too old, too cantankerous, too much of an antagonist, a villain of the piece. That's not what we need. That doesn't blend well with Mercedes as a brand. How about Carlos? Well, same sort of thing. She was like, I don't think Carlos is the guy. He's too mistake. He's too mistake laden, too oversteery, too trigger happy with the throttle pedal. Well, how about Max? Toto said, I promised Lewis Weiser was here that I wouldn't speak to Max. Brackets unsaid, now that he's no longer here, that's something that I can explore. I don't even think Susie responded. It's almost like, yeah. By default, therefore, Max is the guy that Toto wants to sign. He's made it clear before the eyes of the world and the public. He said that he wouldn't flirt outside the relationship, and then only went on to flirt outside the relationship with the four-time champion that they call Maximilian Verstappen. That's why he got loose in 2030. Yeah, true. They got, true, 2030. But I mean, 2015 was when they had the opportunity to sign Max, and then they had Nico and Lewis in that car. So therefore, there was no room at the Boys and Brackley Inn, was there? Only for Nico Rosberg to win one championship and do one of these. I'm done. Just when you thought I was out, you're a fool if you don't see that, says Lazy Carson Hovka. Being Tiger, Bolt, Ronaldo, etc. different. I know the highest paid. It does rotate, but I just feel like all of that money, bonkers figures, and all linked to a certain part of the world, eh? You need Max if you want 19 of 22 performance bringing warranty. That's why you need Max. I get it, Rorschach. If you can get Max, you go and get Max. But I think there are the hows and the whys, and I don't agree with the way that Toto's gone about it. He's tried to be, and again, Ross Brawn told us this in his book, didn't he? There's a way that you go about conducting your behaviour and your business, and when it gets techier than techie things, Toto's not the one to trust. Ross Brawn said this in his book, that he realised that he couldn't trust them Mercedes bods in Toto specifically. And Ross Brawn's telling you that, then George Russell needs to be aware of this. I hope George in the summer break is reading the Ross Brawn autobiography and learning that Toto, the boy who cried wolf, is nothing if not a wolf when it comes to commercial negotiations. Techier than techie things, chat. I'm telling you, there's lots that needs to play out over the next couple of weeks between now and Sandford at the end of the month. I'm going to run. You guys have been legends as always, but that's not including sponsors. A good shout. I think it's basic pay. I think it is basic plus bonus. Excuse me, lazy. Daniel, add Villeneuve and you have a great trip. Villeneuve, are you talking about broadcasters? Nah, I don't believe you, Safak. I disagree. Agree to disagree. I don't think Villeneuve is the broadcaster, to be fair. It's Rosberg. It's Alex Jakes, it's Martin Brundle. Windsor as well, friend of the channel, if you can get him back on, if you can persuade him out of retirement. Full stop, new paragraph. James Allen too would be a good addition, and then keep Ted Kravitz in the pit box would be my solution. I think Toto is very underhanded. Well, don't listen to me, Turtle. I don't have I'm not close enough to the Toto Wolff circumstance to say one way or other. But I will defer to the guys and girls who know better than me in Ross Brawn, who had direct negotiations with Toto when he was selling Brawn GP to them in 2009. That's all you need to know about that. Ross Brawn in his book said, I think the words that he used was two-faced, duplicitous when characterising the one that they call Toto, the boy who cried wolf. You're too kind as always, lazy. Rorschach, you're a legend. I will see you same time, same place tomorrow. You guys are absolute legends. Crackosaurus, Sir John Perry, thank you. I am grateful ad infinitum. Between now and next time, the prosecution rests no further questions, Your Honour.